Well, welcome to the Herb of the Week with me, your host and instructor of the Botanical Medicine Study course, Stephanie Georgiev. If you would like to receive a free introductory lesson, a video, and handouts for the course, please click the link in the program notes where you will be directed to a form to receive the downloads for the materials. Well, here we are, the first week of June. Well, technically it is still spring for many of us in the Northern Hemisphere, and it really feels like summer. And with summer comes warmer weather and lots of outdoor activities. If you're like me, I really like walking in nature during this time of year. Not only is it warmer, it's also the time of nature bursting forth in all sorts of plant life. I can tell you that when you really start to study plants and come to appreciate them, your definition of weed will be forever changed. This week's Herb of the Week will be part of that transformation of recognizing what a weed truly is, because Plantago or plantain is one of those plants. You see it around you all the time. You probably step on it or irritated with it because it grows in your garden, in your lawn. But I tell you, this is a wonderful plant and an amazing gift from the natural world. In Nicholas Culpeper's Complete Herbal, a 17th century bestseller in England, the entry for plantain is, "Time is in its beauty about June, and the seed ripens shortly thereafter." This is an excellent statement on plantain, as it really appears in June, and the seed ripens quickly. Plantain is one of the most abundant and widely distributed medicinal crops in the world. It has long been considered a cure-all and a treatment for everything from bug bites to more serious internal issues. I became familiar with plantain when I lived in Germany. The household where I lived was very health food conscious, and each morning in the spring and summer, we made a morning green juice shot with water and plantain. Basically, I would go out into the yard, pick a handful of plantain leaves, rinse them off, and then put them in a blender with about a cup of water. Blend it, strain out the fiber, and drink. The pulp could be used as a face mask. I was in great shape in Germany in those last glorious days before the fall of the Iron Curtain. Plantago lanceolata is a species of flowering plant in the plantain family of Plantagenaceae. It is known by common names of ribwort, narrowleaf plantain, English plantain, ribleaf, lamb's tongue, and buckthorn. It's a common weed or cultivated, and it usually works well on what agricultural people call disturbed land. In the Americas, plantain was brought by the Europeans, and the natives call it white man's foot because the Europeans brought it and it was propagated by people walking and spreading the seeds. The other name for this plant in the Americas is snakeweed because it was felt that it could heal snake bites. In medical Latin, plantar means foot, or on the side of the sole of the foot. And Plantago's name comes from the Latin planta, meaning sole, to represent the broad leaves lying touching the ground. Plantain, or Planto lanceolata, as well as Planto majorica, are not to be confused with the delicious banana-like fruit common in Puerto Rican and Caribbean food. Plantain comes, as I said, from the Plantainaceae family, or the plantain family. This is a large, diverse family of flowering plants in the order of Lamellales. That includes common flowers such as snapdragon and foxglove. The plant is a rosette-forming perennial herb, with silky, hairy flower stems, And the basal leaves are called lanceolate and spread or erect. They're not very much toothed, and they have long parallel veins, which is why sometimes it's called ribwort. Now, the medicinal actions of Plantago major are that it's anti-inflammatory, antibiotic, coagulant, and that means it causes the blood to coagulate. It has laxative properties. Now, there are a lot of things that are called aphrodisiac in the plant world. There's a really wonderful book called Rude Food. I don't even think it's in print anymore, but it basically went through and looked at aphrodisiacs in many different cultural traditions. And let me tell you, humans will use any reason to feel amorous. Now, the other properties of plantain is that it's antimicrobial, anti-hemorrhagic, which means it stops bleeding. It's an expectorant. It's been used for coughs to get rid of phlegmy chest colds. It's got antioxidant properties, analgesic, which means it relieves pain, and it's astringing. Now, this image is from an open source article, and I call the article Everything You Can Imagine About Plantain. And this article, I have a link to it in the program notes, is completed by some incredible scientists in Ethiopia. Now, basically, there are every kind of amazing chemical you can possibly imagine in this plant. And the biggies are chemicals that help stop inflammation, flavonoids, like those bioflavonoids that we take in supplement form that help with our blood vessels and our lymph and all sorts of things. They strengthen skin, and flavonoids are basically essential to good health. And in addition, for obvious reasons, plantain has a lot of chlorophyll, which causes the leaves to be green. And the chlorophyll is all around healthy. And for those who have wheat allergies but want the benefits of wheatgrass juice, plantain is a wonderful substitute for that because of its chlorophyll content. One of the best and simplest ways to use Plantago is to crush it up and place it on minor cuts, scrapes, or insect bites. I'm not recommending using this for snake bites, even though the Native Americans did that. And if you do get a snake bite, make sure to remove any venom while seeking medical assistance immediately. But for minor cuts and scrapes while out walking in nature or in your front yard, you can just pick a leaf, place it on the wound as a great first aid until you can clean and dress the problem. There are numerous salves and creams on the market, and you can also make your own if you like. And again, I have a link in the program notes for a really great recipe. Now, traditional Chinese medicine essentially uses they use the seeds. And they have their own plantain. It's called Plantago asiatica. And the Chinese word for this is Che Chan Zi. And it's interesting. The literal translation is before the cart seeds. And for every obvious reasons, it's called Plantago asiatica, obviously because it's grown in Asia. Now, the proper Latin, if you're wanting to order this from a Chinese herbal company, is Semen plantaginus. Che Chan Zi is sweet and cold and enters the bladder, the kidney, the lung, and liver meridians. It drains damp, promotes urination, regulates water, clears heat. It's good for edema, diarrhea. It helps stop diarrhea and dysentery. It's very, very good at clearing the eyes. It's good for eye problems due to liver heat or liver yang rising. It's good for dry eyes, cataracts, and it's also really good for clearing lung heat, which means it stops cough and it gets rid of those copious yellow sputum and phlegm in the lungs. Most of what I personally could find on Ayurvedic use of plantain was simply adopting the British use of the herb. So if anyone can illuminate me on different issues, please let me know in the comments. As I said before, I got in the habit of my morning green drink while living in Germany. And let me tell you, this is much cheaper than wheatgrass juice. But also, eating plantain leaves is a great way to get in all those amazing nutrients. Again, I've included in the program notes a wonderful post on a website all about edible weeds. And again, I dislike this name for these amazing gifts these plants are. But if you say the word weed, we all know what we mean. But I hope for you now, weed doesn't include simply altering your consciousness from illegal substances or things to be removed from your garden, but amazing gifts of nature that we need to appreciate. That's what I hope you think of when you hear the word weed. But in any case, you can make wonderful soups, smoothies, and stir fries and salads with plantain. Major caution, make sure whatever you are gathering has not been sprayed with some sort of cancer-causing substance or is next to a busy freeway. Plantain grows wild, so it may seem counterintuitive to purposely put it in your garden, but you may wish to have a concentrated patch. And the best way to do this is to transplant plantain into a specific location in your garden where you want to cultivate it. Since harvesting only involves the leaves and the seeds, it's not like dandelion where you have to sacrifice the whole plant. Plantain likes full sun, but will grow in shaded areas and prefers, as most plants do, loamy, well-drained soil. But if you're like me, you see this plant grow almost everywhere, even in cracks of pavement. So it will come back every year, as you've probably noticed in your lawn or on your walks. So if you have a patch of garden you don't know what to do with it, you really don't want to do a whole lot with, transplant some plantain and it will stay forever. Plantain is really a power plant with so many uses and gifts. It's abundant and, in my estimations, very underrated, as are most plants that are considered weeds. I hope you are inspired to learn more about this wonderful gift from nature, however it calls to you, in the wild, in your garden, in your salads, soups, or smoothies, as a first aid for minor cuts and scrapes, or added to your herbal formulas for more serious issues. So this is Stephanie Georgia saying thanks for watching, and I hope until next time I post Herb of the Week, you are happy and enjoying the great outdoors and your garden.